Hello, Charlie. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about this one. I feel like we're gonna talk about all kinds of.
What I'm going to do is jump straight in it with you. So you wrote a book called The Octopus of Global Control. Just want to talk us through your sort of thought process with that and sort of explain to us in the audience what this octopus is.
Yeah, so this book I wrote it in I published it in 2017. I wrote it in 2016 and parts of 20 well, all of 2016 and the first half of 2017. I was researching it in 2015. And this was like a culmination of all the stuff that I'd really been interested in all these topics for a long, long time, but I didn't really know that I was going to have any sort of I don't know. I just was interested in the topics, but I didn't think I had like a role in it. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just was interested in it. That was it. That was the extent of it. And my mom, I was explaining some grand new conspiracy I had discovered, to my mom one day, and she was like, "This is all really interesting. Um, you've got all this really fascinating information that you found, but like, what are you going to do with it?" And I was like, "I nothing. I don't know. Nothing. I don't. Am I supposed to do something with it?" She's like, "No. I didn't know. Are you going to like write a book? Are you going to make a movie or anything?" I was like, honestly, it blew my mind. It was this simplest question, and I had no answer. I had never thought about it. I just liked the topics. That was it. But after that, I thought, oh, geez, maybe I should do something. And I knew I wasn't going to make a movie because I didn't know how to direct a movie, and I didn't really think about anything like that. But the book side of things really kind of, I thought I could do that. Like I could maybe do that. So I started on it. I started research. I had been researching whether I knew it or not for 10 years. But it started like writing down ideas in about the tail end of 2015, and I didn't tell anybody. Even though I had that conversation with my mom where she had mentioned maybe, you should do something with it. When I decided to start writing, I still didn't tell anybody. Tell my wife, which wasn't the best strategy. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell my friends. I didn't. I At first it was like if you tell someone, "Oh, I'm going to go write a book," and then they're gonna ask you like a year later, how's that book coming? And if you don't have it finished, then it's like, oh, I never finished it. So I decided I wasn't gonna have any expectations, so I just wasn't gonna say anything. So I started writing this book, and then about halfway through it, I realized like I'm definitely gonna finish it. I'm not worried about that, but I am um I felt like now I'm really onto something. Now, I mean, I'm writing about things, and this book is flowing, and it's making a whole lot of sense, and I can see that a reader will be able to make sense of this crazy this massive conspiracy, because I feel like I'm writing it in a way that can connect with just about anybody, especially people that are skeptical of this sort of thing. And so halfway through writing the book, it changed. I still kept it quiet. I didn't tell anyone still until it was released. But my reasoning changed from like, oh, I don't know if I'll finish it, to I don't want someone to tell me to not finish it. Like it kind of changed along the way. And so basically what it is and it's the timing of what's going on right now here in the States. I don't know if it's been released where you guys are, but on Netflix right now in America, there's a big series called The Octopus Conspiracy. It's a four-part documentary series, but it's about Danny Casolaro, the author of a book called The Octopus. He was writing about these really dangerous guys in the Bush administration in the 1980s, and he wrote this book at age 44 about the octopus, and got murdered for it. They cut him up and stuffed him in a bathtub in a hotel somewhere, right? And at age 44. Now I'm 44 writing a book about the octopus, going, oh, but I don't wind up in a bathtub somewhere, right? But nobody knew who I was, and I wasn't out asking the questions. But so right now in America, hot topic, the octopus. It's all over the place, right? Everyone. And so I'm getting a lot of people coming out and saying, is this the same octopus you're talking about? And my answer to that is no, not really. It is, and by the way, the idea, the concept of the octopus, it's not mine. It's not even Danny Castellero's. I mean, this goes back a long, long time. But this idea that there's a head of an octopus with multiple tentacles that are involved in all kinds of things, that is a concept that has been around for at least 100 years. And the reason why I know it's been around for at least 100 years is because one of the quotes that I put in the octopus book, and there's 700 quotes from 500 different people, so it's a really unusual format for the book, but one of the quotes that I put in there is like 3 paragraphs long, and you read it and it says, it's talking about a sprawling octopus that has taken control of this country, and it has got its tentacles in the media and into the government and into the courthouses and into big business and all of this. And then the guy who's, you get to like the second paragraph, and this guy says, let me escape from mere generalizations. I'm talking about the Standard Oil Rockefeller family interests. They are part of this octopus, right? And then you finish reading, you read the third paragraph, and the guy who said it is John Francis Hylan, mayor of New York City. And you're like, I've never heard of this guy, mayor of New York City. And then you look and he said, and you go, when does this quote? 1922. And you're like, oh my God. Like at the time I was like, this is like 100-year-old quote. And we're talking about the same problems, right? They're using the octopus symbolism there too. This is the mayor of New York City. Who would probably know? And so it wasn't my idea for the octopus. It wasn't Danny Castellero's idea for the octopus. It probably wasn't even this mayor of New York City 100 years ago. It was just it's a symbol that works really well, in part because the octopus, is an amazing creature. It's super smart and it's very alien looking, and it can change colors and it can change textures. It can change patterns. It can spray ink to create a diversion and then take off out the back door because it's super fast. Or it can grab you with its tentacles, pull you in, and destroy you with a hidden beak that you don't see until it's too late. So it's like the symbolism is off the charts for the octopus, and how you compare it to these really multi-generational families that work to control this world. And so you start to see that the octopus itself is a kind of a perfect symbol for it. So when I started writing about it, it's the same name as what Danny Castellero is talking about. And of course, I get into some of what the faction that he is writing about, that the group that murdered him, which was George H.W. Bush's crew. But it's not limited to just them. It's a much bigger thing. And so my book covers, where Danny's book was just kind of one component of this octopus, I really kind of did a more general dive onto it. So yeah, there's a lot there, and it's been around for a long time.
Do you know when you was just at the beginning when you were saying you didn't tell anyone that you wanted to write the book, and I'm sort of assuming that you just came out and launched a book and told people, friends, family, guys, I've got a book that I've just launched. What sort of response did you get from people around you?
My wife threw me out of the house for 2 days for emotionally cheating on her. Yeah. So it was, I mean, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't cheating, but I was not being honest about my time. And I was writing I was writing, like, I would sneak out of bed in the middle of the nights and I would write some. I would write during the day. I remember there were times that I was just kind of sitting there at the dinner table and I was like falling asleep. Like, what are you on, heroin or something? I'm like, no, I've just been up.
Did she suspect anything at the time?
No, not that I know
No.
of. Not that I know of. At the very end, I think she was like, "Oh, this makes sense now." So she wasn't thrilled with it. My friends, on the other hand, my mom thought it was great. She was like, "Oh, well, you," and I explained, "Remember this conversation that we had a couple years ago?" And she was like, "No." I'm like, "Well, I do." And so this was it. And so it kind of inspired me to write the book. My friends don't really care. They're not into it. They're not into the topics. Like my friends that I grew up with. Um, it's not their thing. I have some of them that, I mean, they know what I do, but they don't they have their own stuff going on, so they're not as interested in it. I think that when I started to promote the book, nobody, of course, nobody knew who I was, and because I this was my first book and I didn't really have anything before that. So I did a lot of promotion in 2017 and well, really mostly 2018 and 2019 for the book, and talked to everybody. And I wound up getting on some really big shows, which was helpful. And that kind of got the sales up there. And then once you can show that you have a book that people will buy and that it actually sells, then when it was time for the second book, which I wrote with Jeff Berwick from the Dollar Vigilante, that time around, I was more upfront with my wife. I said, "Listen, I'm thinking of writing a second book, but I'm not going to sneak around and do it behind your back because first of all, you're on to me, and second of all, it takes too long to try and do that. I want to be able to just not hide from anyone and sit down and do it." And she said, "Yeah. Clearly, this is what you're meant to be doing." So the response was mixed from people. The people that have read the Octopus book that I did, that aren't necessarily friends or anything, for them, the comments that I've gotten is that because it was kind of strangely funny, there's funny parts in it, that was helpful to them because the topics are really dark. You're talking about like some of the worst stuff ever, right? And these people, and you could read it and just go, "Oh, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm never going to be able to fix this. Why should I know about it? Why should I care about it?" So I wanted to make sure that I had my dark sense of humor in there somehow, where it was, where you read a comment from Donald Rumsfeld, that's just like this, just pathological lying to the American people, and it's and then that quote ends, and then I have to, then the last line that I put in that's mine is like, or I think the end of the quote was something like, "I don't understand why this is so complicated for people to understand that we're the good guys," or something, and it's like, because you're the fucking bad guys. You know what I mean? Like, because you're the worst people in the world. Like, so I had to like have some fun with it where I threw in like spicy language and made, made fun of some of the things that they were saying. And I gave them a really hard time, but made it kind of funny, so that you wouldn't throw yourself out of a window. You know what I mean? Like while you're reading it, because you're just like, "Oh my God, child exploitation, and they're trafficking kids." And you read this and you're just like, "Oh, it's so awful," right? And to be fair, there's nothing funny about trafficking kids, so there's no way to make light of anything like that. But on the other stuff, when it comes to like politicians, oh, they're fair game. And I destroy them in here. And in one of the things that I kind of I did throughout the book, and I didn't have a name for it until the very end, after I was pretty much done with the book, was I thought of this concept, for anyone that takes like martial arts, especially judo. Um, what you do in judo is you try to use the opponent's momentum against them, right? And so with the book, I called it verbal judo, where I tried to use the weight and momentum of their words against them, to try and hang them out to dry. Like, "You said this. I want you," I would show the juxtaposition where they're saying one thing, and here's the quote, and here's the date in which they said it. And then here's them saying the exact opposite thing 9 days later. You know what I mean? And here's the date, and here's the quote. So I wanted to make sure that I don't have to make a comment about that. I just have to show you they said one thing and then they said the exact opposite 9 days later, or whatever the case may be. So it's using the weight of their own words against them. When people go, oh, you think these guys all want to create a world government, and that's crazy. You conspiracy theorists with your ideas about world government. Oh, you think that these guys want to start a new world order? It's like, okay, well, here's the quote from page 405 of David Rockefeller's autobiography, which means he wrote it himself. And in this quote, he says, my family and I have been accused by people of being internationalists and that we're trying to destroy the concept of a nation state and build a world government in which only a select group of people control, and well, if these are the charges, then I stand guilty and proud of it. And you go, what? So it's like some of these you have to dig around and find, but if you find them, you can use the weight of their own words against them. It's like, I'm not saying that, well, I am saying that they want to create a one world government, but in this particular context, it's not my words that are saying, it's them. You think that the new world order, you guys, you crazy new world order people. Okay, well, I can put together a compilation video where I can show George H.W. Bush mentioning the new world order over 200 times in 4 years on camera in front of audiences. So enough of this, like, you guys are making this stuff up. That was kind of the point to the book, was that we don't have to make it up. It's there.
Why do you think politicians are so blatant when they make these quotes?
Well, they're very arrogant. Most of them are extremely stupid too. Like, you think that they're smart. They're smart in that they can function in that very thin line of like politics, and they go through especially in the UK where you guys are, they go through Eton and they go through the school system, the very specific school system, and within that very narrow framework, they can do quite a few things. But they don't think for themselves. That's the problem with them, is that the reason when you start to get them in trouble is when they think that they're going to start thinking for themselves and start talking. And when they talk, they get off script. And when they get off script, they make mistakes. And so what I did was I just captured all of the mistakes that they made. And on top of that, they're compromised. But a lot of them are very much compromised. Some of them you don't need to compromise. They love that lifestyle. That's what they're into. Others, you put them in situations in which they're tested. Their will is tested. If it's, if it's money and power you want, you give them money and power. If it's drugs and alcohol that they're into, you give them that. If it's, hot women, you make sure that happens. If it's sex with little kids, you make sure that. But whatever it is that they want, whatever it is that gets that politician interested, then you give it to them, and then you hold it over their heads and you make them do what you need them to do. And the consequences aren't like, we'll stop giving it to you anymore. The consequences can be, we blow up your airplane. So get on board with the program or have a nice trip, and I can go through countless examples where guy got on the wrong side of the Clintons and the Clintons put him on an airplane and the airplane blew up. A guy that worked for the Clintons, got multiple guys that have worked for the Clintons. They've Ron Brown in Croatia. I'm going to send the Commerce Secretary to Croatia to go sort something out. What did you sort? What did you need him to sort out? Well, I needed his airplane to fly into a mountain so that he would stop talking. When they found Ron Brown's body, the Commerce Secretary from the Clintons, he died in a plane crash. When they found his actual body, it had a bullet hole in the back of the head.
Oh,
just to make sure. So that's, what we're talking about. The politicians they're defective people to begin with. That's sort of the baseline, is that we make this assumption that, like, we're good people, right? We're decent people. We want what's best for our friends and family and everything. And so we think that the politicians want the same thing. But in actuality, what winds up happening is that places like Washington, D.C., they're a magnet for psychopaths and narcissists and people that are really screwed up in the head, because there's a lot of power and money in in a place like Washington, D.C. So if you're a psychopath, one of the things that you're constantly trying to do is move up this pyramid in your mind. You're trying to move up ranks. You're trying to get more control, get this, get that, the things that you want. Well, Washington, D.C.'s got all of it, right? So what winds up happening is it's not like an honest representation of the people that go into politics in America are just normal Americans. They're not. The people that go into politics in America are psychopaths that are seeking something. So they wind up in Washington, D.C., and people go, God, I can't believe these politicians are so dirty and corrupt, and they're so full of lies, and they're sexual deviants and drug addicts and everything. It's like, what did you expect? That's what you get when you put out all the things that psychopaths like. Of course you're going to get psychopaths. And so but again, what the problem is that the mainstream, the general public sees these politicians, and we make this assumption, oh, they must be really good at their job in order to continue to move up. And in fact, it's the opposite of that, right? They're really bad human beings that are controllable. They're bad at their job, actually, but they're controllable. And we need them. When we put them in a position like president of the United States, like Bill Clinton, we can't have him thinking for himself. You've got to have a guy in there who's controllable. Maybe Bill Clinton's a bad example because he's a psychopath. No matter what, they didn't need to control him. He was out. Actually, he was out of control. They were trying to keep him a little bit more contained in that. Most people they're trying to destroy. Bill Clinton they're trying to rein in because he was such a maniac. But a lot of these people, they get into these positions of power, and it's like, you work for us now. Like you don't have a say in how this goes. You don't, so it's not the best and brightest. It's the most controllable and dumbest and most ambitious people that wind up in these positions of power. So they all start to kind of look the same and sound the same. They go to the same schools. They hang out with the same people. They're completely detached from like a normal person. Like they have no idea how, they would ask presidents, like, how much is a gallon of milk? They'd be like, $1? It'd be like, no, it's $5. Or when it's $5 or when it's $8, they'd ask them and they'd say, I don't know, $30. Like they don't know anything. They know nothing. So it's this, the politicians that wind up in positions of power, and it's only relative power because there's plenty of people above them. But those politicians that we see on TV that we think have power, it's only limited power, but they only keep that power as long as they are doing what needs to be done. The minute you get on the other side of them or you start to become, they view you as unpopular, they don't care if you've been in office for 10 years or 10 weeks. You saw what they did to Liz Truss. They threw her right out, right? She's gone. Like, oh, well, that was fast. Yeah. Because the person is replaceable. And it's the octopus that's behind it that continues on. These politicians are just like, they're like actors. They're really like actors. I mean, the problem is a lot of them don't know they're acting. But of course, if you want to be a really good actor, you find the ones that don't know they think that they're in like reality, but they're not. And so that's I think the first step for a lot of people, like coming to this information and starting to believe, starting to understand what's going on. It's like you have to look at these politicians and you go, everyone's had the same thought too. Out of all the people in this country, no matter what country you're in, out of all of it, this is the best we could do? This guy or this lady or whatever? Like, really? And it's like, no, they're not there because they're the best we can do. They're there because they will do exactly what they're told to do. And they know that if they get off of that, then they get pushed in front of a car or blown up in an airplane or whatever.
So with this sort of thought process in mind, that I like what you said, that they're actors, but a lot of them don't actually know that they're actors, and that makes them the best at acting. What do you think the reason for, I guess, power, why Donald Trump got into power. Do you believe he actually got in there for good, which I obviously don't, or do you think he got in there to sort of rattle the community, the rest of the community, as an actor who didn't know he was acting?
He's well, I'll tell you this. I don't know for certain why Donald Trump was in there, but in retrospect, looking back on it, he was really great. If the goal is to destabilize the country and split it down the middle, you couldn't have picked a better person, because Trump really made a certain percentage of the population just go crazy. I mean, we've seen the videos, the people screaming at the sky, right? They do. They thought he was going to round him up. They had been told that on the media that lies constantly, and the media is only like here in the States. It's like leftist media where they're like, Donald Trump is going to put you in camps. He's going to take all your children, and people are like, oh my God, is he really going to do that? They didn't know what to expect. Now, I personally never liked Donald Trump from years earlier because I work in real estate. And I watched the way he treated companies and people that worked for him. I know people that know them, the Trump family. I have a buddy who ran his Vegas operation. He's a shithead. He's a shitty businessman. He's a guy that is a horrible. He treats people like garbage. He had like 4,000 lawsuits against his construction company. And working in real estate, I know that most developers are just like him. They're just, it's a weird type of person. It's not the type of person you would want to hang out with. But putting that aside, my feelings about his personality, I did like that he made everybody crazy. I mean, he made half the country like insane. Those people needed to be made insane. They needed to feel that. And I think that he's a great destroyer. I don't know if he was actually supposed to be the president. I think Hillary Clinton was probably, I mean, she was definitely projected to be the president. And I know that the Octopus group loves her because they know her husband. I mean, they don't love her personality because she's unlikable, but she gets things done for them, and she's never going to turn her back on them because she's a soulless psychopath who defended rapists when she was a lawyer. Her boss at the law firm where she first worked, the first job she had out of law school, her boss is on the record saying, in all of the years of practicing law, I have never met a more dishonest person than Hillary Clinton. And he refused to write a recommendation letter for her. He said, this will be the third time it's ever happened in my career, but I have to say that out of all the people I've ever had come through and work for me, this is a prestigious guy that knew the inside. He said, I've never met anybody as diabolical as Hillary Rodham, I guess was her name back before she was married to Bill. So she was defending rapists, and she doesn't need to be kept in line. She's a psychopath. She's part of that team. So I know they would have liked to have had her. Trump is a little bit more of a wild card, and they don't love that. They don't love the wild card. They can work with it. They can figure it out. It's like, well, if Hillary gets in office, we can work with her and we'll do all these agendas that we have planned. If for some reason Donald Trump beats her and winds up in there somehow, well, then we got to make sure he doesn't do these things, and we got to convince him to do these other things. And here's the problem with Donald Trump. He has such a huge ego that he's easy to manipulate. So you just tell him you can't do these things, and then he'll want to do them. So they know how to they know how to work him, right? So, oh, you can't do this. You can't do any of these things, Donald. No, you can't do it. Oh, you watch. I'll do those. I'll be the best. They're going to be the best things that have ever been done. And you're like, you're like, oh, he's falling right into the trap, right? He's walking into it. So I don't know if that was I mean, look, they're selections, not elections. So, but my feeling is when it came to Donald Trump and Clinton, I don't think he was actually selected at that point. I think when it comes down to the final two contestants, again, Donald Trump knows his airplane will blow up if he gets on the wrong side of these guys. If he really gets on the wrong side of them, he knows that. He knows that in the way that I was talking to John Perkins, who wrote Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and that book changed my life. And one of the stories that he tells in that book is how in the early 80s, he was an economic hitman, and he was working with Omar Trujillo in Panama, and Jaime Roldos, the president of Ecuador. He was working with both of these presidents, trying to get them to do these bad deals that his World Bank and IMF and the company he worked for, they're trying to build like hydroelectric power plants. And he was trying to convince them to take the deals. And these guys are saying, we don't want these deals. These are bad deals. We're not going to take these deals. And he was telling them, you got to take the deals. And he's like, the presidents were going, we don't want to take the deals. We're not going to take it. And Perkins was telling him, guy, like, he'd be like, they're going to send the jackals after you, the CIA kill squad. And these guys said, we understand. We appreciate you telling us, but I'm not doing the deal, you know. And both General Omar Trujillos and Jaime Roldo both blew up in plane crashes within 3 months of one another. That the CIA put bombs on their plane and blew them up. So if I know that, and John Perkins knows that, and the president of Ecuador and the president of Panama in 1980 knows that, Donald Trump knows that now. He knows that, right? So there's only so far you can go off the rails before they kill you. And I know a lot of Americans think, oh, well, if they killed Trump, there'd be a civil war. Maybe. But maybe they want that. Maybe they don't care. They don't care. They don't care about America. Oh, there's gonna be a civil war and 20 million people will die. These people are, their secondary plan, when it's not creating world government, is depopulation. So they don't care. You're not gonna say, oh well, if this happens, then it'll be really bad. Everyone will die. They'll be like, and where's the problem, right? So Trump and these people that become the president, there's only so much they can do. There's only so many things that they can do before the people above them, the people that really control the world, the bankers and the intergenerational families that have really been in control, sort of in the shadow, and the Vatican and the City of London, and and all these groups. That's where the real power is. If you get too far off of what they want to happen, then first they'll warn you, and maybe the next time around, I don't think Donald Trump gets a warning next time around. I think the next time he does something that they really don't want, then he goes away, and they can make that happen whenever they want to. So yeah. And we saw that with John F. Kennedy. So
during his 4 years in power, did he do anything that really pissed him off? Or did he get like close to pissing him off?
If you go by what he said and what he said he was going to do, for sure. But if you look at what he actually did, no, not really. He didn't really start any brand new major wars, but he kept the existing ones going. So that's a good thing. If you ended all the wars today, if a new president came in and ended all of the wars, pulled all of our troops out of all these countries, he'd be dead by the end of the week, period. I mean, they wouldn't even try to hide it. They'd just have a guy walk up to him and shoot him in the head. Because
at the moment, he's saying he'll end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours.
Never happened.
He wouldn't do that because he would get there'd be consequences.
Yep. He'd say, I have just ended the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. It was the fastest end to a war ever. And he would say all that stuff, and the money would still find its way there. And the tanks would still find its way there. They would still, it would still happen. If he honestly did shut that down, then the problem is that there are other things going on in a place like Ukraine that he's not really in the know about. He doesn't know about the biolabs, or maybe he does now, but at the time, there would be biolabs going on. There certainly was a massive money laundering operation that was using FTX to finance the Democrats. And I think if he found out about that, he probably would have put a stop to that. But that probably wouldn't have gotten him in too much trouble. But something like ending the war, something like rounding up politicians and taking them and sending them to Guantanamo Bay, that's never going to happen. That's just that's hope porn that the American Republicans have, that like, oh, one of these days, man, he's going to get back in there and he's going to right all of the wrongs. He's going to take all these people and throw them in prison for their crimes. He should, but that's not going to happen. That's just never going to happen. That's what he says is going to happen, but it's not going to happen. But no, I don't think he ever really did anything too bad to cross the line against these people. COVID was a prime opportunity for him to not do it, to say, we're not pushing the vaccine, we're not locking down, we're not printing trillions and trillions of dollars. We're not going to do any of that stuff. I'm not shutting down the economy. I'm not doing any of that. He could have done that. He didn't. He printed all the money. He shut down the economy. He took credit for the vaccine. He demanded that everyone get vaccinated. He's still taking credit for it. So he may talk a big game about how he's going to end these things. You can only do so much before they just change you out for somebody that will. I mean, Joe Biden is the president right now, allegedly. But he's, it's really kind of Obama and Obama's team behind the scenes that are really running that. But if Joe Biden came out today and decided that he was going to make some sweeping change, or he was going to cut off funding for Israel, or he was going to cut off funding for Ukraine, they'd push him down a flight of stairs on camera. You know what I mean? They wouldn't wait for him to fall. Some guy would just come and just kick him right down, and that'd be the end of it, because there's only so much you can do. But, and I think these guys know it. And a guy like Joe Biden, here's the interesting difference between Trump and Biden. And this was a quote that I put in the Octopus book. And it's by a guy named Newt Gingrich, who said the quote, who's been a politician in America forever. He's not the best, but he said this was in 2016. Trump had just won the election, but hadn't become the actual president yet. There's like a 3-month window before he gets installed. And it was during that time when Newt Gingrich said, Donald Trump's going to have a really hard time in Washington, D.C. He's not a part of the club. He's not a part of the secret societies. And I was like, oh, that's 100% true. That is what separates Donald Trump from a lot of these people, is the fact that they say, well, oh, Donald Trump's an outsider. Some people say he's an outsider, and then other people say, well, he's not an outsider. He works with all these people. He's known these people for a long time. Both of those are true. He is an outsider, and he has worked with these people for a long time. But what makes him an outsider is that he's not part of the secret societies. That's what they really mean when they say he's not in the club. He's not in the club where they've got the real good compromising material on him. I'm sure they've got plenty. And what they don't have, they make up. Obviously, they've been making it up for a year or so about Russian hookers are peeing on him, and he's doing all this stuff. All that stuff is made up. But if he were in the club, if he were in the secret societies, they would not have this reaction towards him that they have. But because he's not, that is the place where he is a little bit more controllable or a little less controllable. He has a little bit more control in that he's not part of the secret society. They don't like that. They would like for him to be a part of the secret society. That way they've got absolute and utter control over him. In the absence of that, they just try to make his life difficult. And when he becomes the president again, which he probably will, in my opinion, the end of this year, I don't care one way or the other, but I think he probably will be, then they're going to just make his 4 years hell. They're just going to create so many problems everywhere that he spends all his time trying to deal with all the problems they've created and not doing anything else. So That's that they have plenty of tricks. You know, when you don't care, when there's no, when you're the government or you're the people that control the government and you do something illegal, what's going to happen to you? Nothing. The government would be the one enforcing it, and you control the government, so nothing's going to. You can do whatever you want. So and a lot of these people that are in positions of high power have access to unlimited money. So you can do whatever you want. You've got all the money in the world. You'll never get caught for anything. So what do you do? What do? You try to run this planet. And that's what these people have been plotting over the years. And it's not one group. It's not one organized group that's all in agreement on everything. There's different factions competing for this, but that's when that this is the octopus. It takes many shapes, sizes, and colors, and it looks very different some days than it does others. But if you turn your back on it, or if you mistakenly think that this is all like just conspiracy theory, you wake up one day and you couldn't you didn't listen to the people that were saying get your money out of the banks, they're going to close all the banks, they're going to destroy the banking industry, you watch. And you go, and someone wakes up and goes, where all my money's gone, the bank is out of business. It's like, we told you it would happen. How did you know? Well, because we're paying attention. And if you're paying attention, you can see this. And if you're not, you're going to be in real trouble as things unfold.
Well, it's like what you were saying earlier, that these politicians and other people of power, they literally say it. I mean, I've not read it myself, but there's the book that Klaus Schwab wrote. Was it called The Fourth Revolution? I can't
Fourth
remember.
Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, that one. And he literally spells out all of the stuff that's going on. But people, the thing that sort of gets me is people read it with a positive mind, so they then feel like what he's saying is positive words and it's to help us. But it only takes like not even much thought to think, hold on a minute, that sounds a little bit weird. But no one seems to do that at all.
No, they make the assumption that because they're a good person and their family are good people, they just think that Uncle Klaus is a good person, that he really wants to save humanity. And they're very good at this too. They're very good at lying. They're very good at saying that we're here to help. And if it's someone like Klaus Schwab and he says, well, listen, we're going to bring about the fourth industrial revolution. You go, oh God, what were the first three revolutions? Like steam power. Okay. And then you're like automotive, oil and gas, right? That's the second industrial revolution. Third is computer wafer chip microprocessing power. Fourth industrial. What is the fourth industrial revolution, Uncle Klaus? And he says, well, it's transhumanism. It's the blending of man with machine into transhumanism. That's the fourth industrial revolution. That's where we need to go. And you go, oh, that's amazing. That's like when a guy loses his arm, but then you build like a bionic arm and then it works, right? And Klaus Schwab's response would be something like, sort of like that. If you say so. Yeah, no, the concept, the term transhumanism, which is what they say the fourth industrial revolution is transhumanism. The term transhumanism, you go, well, that's where'd that come from? Well, that came from Sir Julian Huxley, brother of Aldous Huxley, who wrote 1984. Sir Julian Huxley came up with that term when he was the head of the British Eugenics Society. And the reason why he coined the term transhumanism was because eugenics is about depopulation, thinning the herd, basically murdering off segments of the population. And the general public thought, ooh, that sounds really bad. Eugenics is really bad. It's not like you're improving our genes. It's like you're depopulating the planet. Eugenics is a terrible thing. And he said, we've got to rebrand. We can't be known as eugenicists anymore. That's got such a negative connotation. Instead, what we should be called are transhumanists. So when you hear Uncle Klaus Schwab talk about this stuff and you read his book and he talks about the fourth industrial revolution, he says it's transhumanism. The problem is most people don't know what transhumanism actually means. They think they do, but in actuality, what transhumanism is depopulation. And that the fourth industrial revolution is getting rid of all of you dummies that don't know what the fourth industrial revolution ultimately is about. It's about you getting killed. That's what it's about. Because in their minds, this is the nobleness of their thinking here. They think, well, this planet of ours, this planet of mine, is too overrun with all of you people. And it would work so much better if I didn't have to worry about all of you people. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of, all you guys all live in poverty too. You don't want to live. This is a terrible life. We're saving you from poverty by preventing you from being born into poverty. We're doing the world a favor. How come you guys aren't telling us how thankful you are that we're doing the world a favor? That's how they see this. They think that they're helping. They think that they're doing the world a favor by murdering billions of people, because they think, oh, those people, first of all, they think those people are insects, and they think that they don't matter, and that they're just dumb animals. But they also have convinced themselves that by getting rid of all those people, they're improving the health and condition of the planet. And when you think that you're saving the planet, you're delusional, but you're also like a super sense of self. Like you feel very important. So I'm sure that the people that go to the World Economic Forum meetings think that they're on some level probably helping society. I think some of them are probably tricked into thinking that they're helping society. All the like young global leaders and people like that. Some of them are psychopaths that definitely want to be there. But a lot of them are just like, oh, I think I'm networking. Am I part of this group? Oh, you're going to help, reduce, you're going to save the environment. I live on this planet too. I want to help save the environment. It's like, that's not what it is. That's the cover story, is that we're saving the planet and that we're doing all this stuff. But when you dig right down to it, whenever they're talking about world government, and when we talk about the octopus, it's always world government. The secondary component to that they also have to have is, if I'm going to create a world government in which the few are in charge of the many, then the second part of this is that we have to make sure that there aren't too many people. And so it's always at the core of what the world government people are thinking is, how do we get rid of a bunch of people? So that's mass murder, premeditated mass genocide. And that's their core belief, is that in order to achieve this world government that nobody's asking for, that they're going to be in charge of, which nobody wants, they're going to have to murder all the people that would be the decision makers on it anyway, right? That would have an opinion on it. So, but you can't just come right out and say that, because that sounds crazy, of course. So they disguise it with things like climate change. And they go, oh, we're saving the environment with climate change. No, you're not. We're saving the world with vaccines. We're increasing life expectancy with vaccines. Really? Well, then how come everybody gets sicker when they've got vaccines? Because it's about depopulation, of course. So they can't come out and say it. So they have to lie about it. But when you get good at when you understand what the plan is, and then you hear their lies, they sound like lies. When you don't know what the plan is and you hear their lies, it sounds like the truth, actually, because they're very good at disguising it. So if you can get yourself to a point where you understand what the game plan is, and you know who the players are, you'll start to recognize them, or you'll start to recognize companies or families or groups of people, World Economic Forum, since we're just talking about that, or British Eugenics Society, or Chatham House, or CFR, or all these groups that you go, oh yeah, I know that name. I know that wait, are they good guys or bad guys? So once you know who the good guys and bad guys are, then it starts to make a lot more sense. It's like speaking another language, I suppose. It's like you now understand what they're actually saying, what they mean. The words that come out of their mouth sound like one thing, But the better you are at listening to their language, you're able to understand what they're actually saying with those words. And that is something that most people just don't even know that any of this is going on. They turn on the TV, or they hear, Joe Biden or Rishi Sunak or whoever is the puppet of the day talking about these things, and they go, maybe he's, maybe he's telling the truth, maybe not, but whatever. But they think that that's the extent of the power. Maybe there's some other groups that keeps a little bit of check on the power, but that's really the extent of it. No, that's like lower management. That's like they're like the assistant managers. They're definitely not the CEO. The Joe Bidens of the world. They're not the CEOs of the world. They might be the president, but that's like the assistant manager, right? It's nothing. They're disposable. I would suggest that the people that run the CIA are way more powerful than the president, because they stay. When the presidents leave, sometimes they stay. They stay and stay for a while. And so that's what you hear, this term, the deep state, that Peter Dale Scott kind of coined. But another term for that is the permanent state. It's the group that stays in power when the president changes. Like the president here, they change every 4 years. Sometimes they get reelected, so they'll come in for 8 years. But after 8 years, that administration goes out and a new one comes in. And if it's a different designation, Republican versus Democrat, whatever, if the Republicans were in for 8 years and then the Democrats win and they come in, everybody's changing in that administration. But not necessarily the head of the CIA, not necessarily the head of the FBI and all the head of NASA and all these groups out there. Those people, sometimes they have long runs where they stay in power and they're not subject to being voted out. Those are the more dangerous people, because they're not voted. Not that voting matters, but you have no say in it. You typically don't really know too much about who they are. They have the ability to join multiple groups, non-governmental organizations, and talk to all kinds of people. And they're infinitely more powerful than the president. I mean, I'm not. Donald Trump had, he has power in that people recognize his name and they see him and they go crazy in the streets when he comes by, or he shows up at a UFC event and people go lose their minds. He's a celebrity, but that's not power. That's not power. The real power is held by the people that aren't celebrities, the people whose names you don't really know. And those are the ones that you have to be more careful with.
Yeah, the ones operating behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing which I've I guess I've struggled with over the past few years, especially in say the last year or so, is when you say like there's the good guys and there's the bad guys. There's people I have listened to and still listen to, the likes of, I don't know, Joe Rogan's, even Donald Trump to an extent, but you've got Elon Musk, you've got Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate, although I don't really listen to him that much. But these sort of figures, right, that are there and fighting against the Matrix. I don't really know what the process is between identifying who are the good guys and who are the bad guys there, because when Joe Rogan, for example, went to and got his Spotify deal and went over to Spotify, I remember saying to Aaron, there's something really different about Joe Rogan at the moment. So then I started listening to him with them new set of ears that I've had, where the same set of ears which I've listened to Klaus Schwab or Joe Biden with. And then I started being quite skeptical about the stuff he's saying and the sort of his ear propaganda machine, because it wouldn't be hard for the biggest podcaster ever to get a phone call saying, do this, do that, or we'll put you and your family on an airplane. So what's your process for navigating these crazy times with who to believe and who to trust?
It's a great question, because it's so hard, because you can be Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan doesn't have to be the guy that explains everything, right? He doesn't have to be the guy. He's certainly not going to be the guy who's going to wake you up to all of it. He's got a couple angles that he can get people to wake up to. He's got the MMA group of people, and they're starting to realize that things aren't as they appear. He's got the stand-up comedian, stoner group type of people. They're starting to figure this out. And he can talk about certain topics on his show that are acceptable. But if you notice, one of his favorite guests is a guy named Mike Baker. Mike Baker works for the CIA. Okay. I mean, he is a CIA agent, right? They say things like, oh, former CIA agent. There is no such thing. All right. Once you work there, aside from them throwing you out, you're always in some way connected, and they'll always keep an eye on what you're doing. So it's a lot of times it's follow the money, but you don't want to be too hard on people that have been successful. Like Joe Rogan didn't need Spotify. I mean, his deal with Spotify was great, but I know people that were making calculations based on what Joe was doing in terms of, people that I know that know how to calculate advertising revenues for podcasts based on downloads and everything. And I remember asking before the Spotify deal, this guy that I trust who's good at figuring these numbers out. I said, what do you think Rogan is making per episode pre-Spotify? He said anywhere from $150,000 to $175,000 an episode, doing 4 a week. So you're talking about 600 to 700,000 a week. That's a lot, man. That's almost 3 million a month. That's like 30 million, a little over 30 million, depending on how many shows you do a year. Spotify deal do you need that much more money? Do you need any, I mean, to go from 30 million to 50 million, is that a huge jump? Probably not. Not if it comes with restrictions, So you have to kind of be careful about, like, some people just are good at business, and they find a way to make money, and I don't think they're compromised. Patrick Bet-David is an example of somebody like that from Valuetainment. I look at his show and I go, that guy was successful before he got into podcasting. I don't envision anybody controlling him. Somebody like Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson, 100% controlled. 100% controlled. Those people, I wouldn't trust them to tell me what time it was. Jordan Peterson has been one of the bigger disappointments too, because he says a lot of really smart things. He's got and he's pissed off the right sort of people too. And I kind of like that. But there's certain topics that you just go, oh, he's totally on board with the process. You started to see, as soon as I saw Netanyahu meeting with him, I went, oh, it's over for him. I know exactly what this is going to turn into. You just wait. But that was before the October 7th. I started seeing him meet with the guys in Israel, and I was just going, all right, he's going to get flipped here pretty soon. And again, Jordan Peterson has some skeletons in his closet too, right? I mean, he's tried to be upfront about his drug issue, but he went to Russia for months and months and months to get clean from benzo. So, like, I'm sure they held that over his head for a while too, until you finally, the best way to diffuse the bomb is to just come right out and admit to whatever it is that they think they've got over you. And he did that, but he's still controlled. Ben Shapiro is controlled too. So some of these guys, David Icke has come up with a new, I don't know if he coined it, but he's been talking about it a lot lately, the mainstream alternative media, right? It's sort of this group of so-called alternative media, alternative in the sense that they maybe aren't on your television screen at night. They don't work for the big major networks. They're on the internet. And so that's alternative. But is it really alternative? Everyone's getting their news on the internet anyway. So that's really where the mainstream is changing, is kind of focusing on online. And so the same rules apply. Capture the important people there, get them on your team, make sure that they're not saying the things that you don't want them to say if you're this deep state, permanent state, whatever, and grab them as the best that you can. What's the best way to do that? Make them financially dependent on you. Cut out the advertising revenue for everybody else in the alternative media, which has already been done, and then reward certain people with shows on bigger platforms like Daily Wire or places like that, Rumble. Give them give them deals, and then get them financially dependent, kind of hooked, like, hey, my show, and let them say whatever they want for a little while. And then they get called into the office, and it's like, you went a little too crazy on the Israel situation. We're going to need you to tone that down a little bit. You go, what? You go, I'm not toning anything down. They go, all right, well, then you're fired. And you go, oh, shit. Now I've got this money coming in. I've bought a new house and I bought a new car and I did this and I did that. All right, fine. I'll tone down the Israel part, but that's it. That's the only part I'm toning down, right? And then next year, then you're stuck. You're controlled. So it's a trap. They get a lot of people in it, and I understand why people fall into it. We do a lot of work and put in a lot of time and effort, and it can't make too much. I mean, well, I should say, it's very difficult to make a good living in the alternative media when they've cut all the advertising dollars out of it. They just make it very difficult. YouTube doesn't give you any plays, and you can't get monetized there. And I'm on Rumble, and I'm monetized on Rumble. And I have a small channel, but my channel has been monetized since the day I started. I have been up and running on Rumble I'm coming up on 6 months now. I have made a grand total of $8.61 on Rumble.
Oh.
What am I going to do with that? Right. So you can't make money in it. You can get a exclusive deal with Rumble. And I know people that have that. And then you get a lot more money. And then you get a lot more eyeballs. The algorithm likes you. They move you up into the rankings. Your message gets out and everything. But they can end that tomorrow if they wanted to. They can make it go away. They can just say, well, we need you to talk about something differently. I just experienced that with TNT Radio. I was working for TNT Radio for years, or for almost a full year. And one day they just came in and said, we want to change the format of everything on your show. We want you, instead of talking to 2 people an hour, we want you talking to 3 people an hour, and we want you to blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm not doing that. And they said, oh, all right, well, then tomorrow's your last day. And I went, okay, fine, bye. So I've had it done to me. They weren't, now, to be fair, they weren't trying to influence my content. They never said, don't say this, do say this, or don't say that. If they'd told me that, I would have walked. This time it was more of like just a show function, but it's like they have the power. If they say I don't have a show, I don't have a show. You know what I mean? So if they say we're going to 3 guests an hour instead of 2, then that's the decision that's made. Then I have a choice to make. Do you want to do that? My answer was no, I'm not doing that. Then they said, okay, then you're fired. So to me, I don't care. It's not that big of a deal. It wasn't a huge lucrative, but what if it was $10 million a year? It'd be like, oh, well, maybe I could go to 3 guests an hour, And then once you do that, and then the next thing is, oh, by the way, don't go so hard against Israel. And you're like, see, I knew it. At some point, it would eventually, they'll get you on something where they just control you. So that's very effective. And here's the thing. They don't even need to get you. This is the big misconception with that, is that they don't need to get you to lie. They just need to get you to not talk about certain things. And I make a calculation based on what I'm doing on my podcasts, or what I'm writing about. All right, these are the things I'm going to talk about. It would be really easy, and nobody would ever know if there was one topic that I just was paid to not talk about. You know what I mean? Because it's not a lie. It's a lie by omission, which is even harder to catch. And I could probably just say, oh, I just have no interest in that topic. I don't really know much about it. I don't really want to talk about it. But I couldn't live with myself if I did something like that. So sometimes the lies are in the censorship is a little different than what you're thinking. We think it's going to be like you start to talk about something and then they just bleep you out so that nobody can hear it. In actuality, it's that the conversation never takes place about that topic. They never even allow that topic to come up on a show. And so they don't have to get you to lie. They just have to get you to talk about something else. And considering how many things there are to talk about, it's easy to do that. But you've compromised your integrity by agreeing to do that. And once you do it once, it's easy to do it over and over again. And so I worry about the guys. I don't know. People will say, like, is Joe Rogan compromised or anything? I actually think he probably is in that category where because he talks to so many different types of people about so much stuff, if there is one topic that he's like, oh, they've never told me not to talk about this, but I know if I talk about it, it's going to be a huge problem. Then all he has to do is, in his mind, to justify that is say, well, instead of 100 potential topics, now I only have 99 to talk about. Fine. Or I'm still going to be good. They're still good, still going to be interesting. I'm not going to, so you can make that calculation too, and sort of justify it to yourself. But at the same time, it is a form of censorship. So it's an interesting time to be paying attention. But I thought that was yeah, I think it's a good topic to get into, to talk about those groups and how they.
What do you think of Elon Musk? Because I find him very interesting because
he's an interesting guy for sure.
The things he says and does at the moment sort of doesn't match up with what his plans are for the future.
Yeah,
he wants to turn X into like a WeChat equivalent of
that's not. Yeah, I don't love that. So on the one hand, there's parts of him that you like when he buys Twitter and he says, I got to get rid of all these crazy people that are running it. You guys are compromising speech and you're doing all this and this is bad. And you go, oh, I like that. That's a good thing. And then he takes over. And then I find a bunch of buddies of mine that are getting thrown off of X now all the time, or getting shadow banned. And I'm like, well, I thought you were supposed to be, advocating for free speech, and there's no free speech going on. I mean, that's a lie. So on the one, there'll be a thing like that, and I'll think, oh, this is great. Electric cars. I don't think the EV industry is going to save the world at all. And I don't think that if you buy an electric vehicle, that you should be patting yourself on the back for saving the planet or anything like that. But if you want like a cool car, Teslas are amazing, right? They've got all kinds of cool features. So it's like, from a car standpoint, it's great. From a Twitter X standpoint, the platform with all these, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, we got all these things, but it's the other stuff that goes along with it that I don't love. And I'll tell you what, whether it's Tesla or SpaceX or Solar City or
Neuralink as well.
Neuralink, you're all of these are government subsidies, tax breaks, financing by the government. So this idea that like he's going to stand up against the government, he is a partner with the government. He's a partner with them. SpaceX doesn't even exist. If there's a guy that used to work at SpaceX who works for NASA now and makes a lot of decisions there. If it wasn't for that guy, SpaceX would have been out of business, because he was the one that agreed to give them the contract with NASA to take gear up to the International Space Station. If it wasn't for that contract, Elon Musk even said, if it wasn't for that one, we would have been done. So government, here comes the government, right? The government helps him. The government saves him. The government comes in and gives him contracts for these things. They give him massive subsidies for Tesla, for his factories. He had one in California. They gave him a bad deal on the taxes because it's California. He moved it to Texas, where Texas gives him a good deal. He talked about incorporating in different jurisdictions because of the tax breaks that you get. You know what I mean? So, which is a smart thing to do, which is the right thing to do. I have no problem with anybody trying to get around paying taxes. Taxes are evil. You should never have to pay them. But so I don't have a problem with that. But this idea that the guy who's in charge of fighting the government has that many contracts with the government, and then wears a jacket to the Met Gala ball that says like New World Order on the back, and God, like, look at that and I go, he's an interesting guy. Yeah, I'd be interested to have a conversation with him for sure. And I think, and clearly he's a brilliant guy who thinks about a lot of stuff, and we need more people that are innovative. But boy, do we need him to be that connected to the government? I just don't love that. And so, And I'll tell you one thing I do like though. He fights with Google all the time and Bill Gates. He can't stand either of those people. So that I kind of like, and he fights with the woke people, and I like that too. So again, I kind of put him in the same category as Donald Trump. There's components of him that I like. There's things that he's doing that I like, but he's tarnished with this government. He smells like government everywhere he goes. So does Trump. Trump smells like government everywhere he goes. And so I don't like that. And I certainly, I'll tell you the most important component of all of it, whether it's Trump or Elon Musk, neither one of these guys gives a shit about the average person. I have to express that as clearly as I can. This idea that they're going to come and make everything better for everybody else. There is nothing in Donald Trump's history that shows any sort of evidence of that. The only thing I've ever seen in Donald Trump's history is Donald Trump making himself more money and more for him, which, by the way, is his prerogative. I mean, it's not his job to come and save the planet. The problem is a lot of people think it is. A lot of people think he's going to, and they're very disappointed when he doesn't. They're very disappointed when Elon Musk doesn't do it, doesn't come in and save the planet. It's like these guys never. Well, Trump probably said he would, but like it's not their job to. They're trying to make as much money as they can. They're getting all sort of offers. By the way, they're also getting threatened behind the scenes as well. We'll never know what's been told to Elon Musk or Donald Trump as to what will happen to them if they do X, Y, Z, whatever. But we know that the conversations have been had for sure. So you always have to take that into account too. Some of these people are everybody's controllable on some level, right? Yeah, everybody. So you just have to assume that these guys are controllable as well. It's hard to imagine that because you think, oh, if I had as much money as Elon Musk, nobody would tell me anything. They couldn't be able to tell. I'd do whatever I want whenever I wanted to do it. Yeah, back to the airplane blowing up stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good luck getting that amount of money without it.
Right. Yeah. It reminds me of this interview I saw with Noam Chomsky, who's an author, journalist, and back when he was actually into being an author and journalist, he was getting interviewed, and I could tell he was. I think it was on the BBC. It was definitely someplace in the UK, and the interviewer is saying to him, yeah, he's giving him some corporate news line, right? And Chomsky just goes, "Oh, come on. Like that's that's preposterous for you to say something like that." And the reporter goes, "So what? You think you think I don't think you think that I'm making that up, that I don't think that?" He says, "No, no, 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 no. I'm sure that you believe what it is you're saying." He's like, "What I'm trying to explain to you," the news anchor reporter, "is that if you believed something different than that, you wouldn't be sitting in that chair and having this job." So some of it they're not, there's a misconception that like all of these people are totally brainwashed into thinking this way, and then they're installed into positions of power. If you do it correctly, you don't have to brainwash them at all. If you do it correctly, they already believe the things that you need them to believe, which is the reason why that journalist is sitting in that chair asking the stupid ass questions that he's asking Noam Chomsky, is because, he was kind of offended that Chomsky would insinuate that maybe he was being told to say these things, when in actuality, he's like, no, 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 I actually believe them. And Chomsky's response was, "Oh, I believe that you believe them. What I'm saying is that if you believed something different, like if you believed what I believed, they'd never hire you. You'd never have that job." And so some of this is just looking for the right people. And maybe that comes out of schooling. Certain schools give you the right people. They deliver them. Maybe it's something like a aftermarket add-on like Rhodes Scholarship. You go through the Rhodes Scholarship program for certain people. You know what you've got. I know it. If you're in America And you get Rhodes Scholars like Bill Clinton or Rachel Maddow from the MSNBC doing her nightly news show, which is straight propaganda. You you don't have to brainwash those people. You know what you're getting when you get somebody that goes through a program like that. You get somebody that's groomed to be a president or run a devious arms company or something along the, or work for for Pfizer, or you know what I mean? Like we're going to be doing some things in the future that are going to be absolutely terrible, and you're going to be the person in charge of it. Can we count on you? And the answer is, of course. You know, that's what they, of course, Albert Bourla, of course you can count on me. What do you think I'm going to be? You think I'm a good guy? No, I'm a bad guy. I'm on your team. So they identified these people early on. They install them, put them in positions of power, either through the World Economic Forum, Young Global Leader program, which is scary how many of those have gone on to become prime ministers, or something like the Rhodes Scholarship Program, which was founded by Cecil Rhodes, which wanted to destroy America from the inside so that it could be folded back into the British Empire at some later date. So it's like, oh, Rhodes Scholar, that means you're really smart. When we hear that in the US, it's like, oh, it means you're really smart. It's like, no, not necessarily. It means that you are a double agent working for the crown, actually, which is what Bill Clinton and Rachel Maddow are. And if you didn't think like that before you got into the program, you're going to think like that by the time you get out. And once you get out, then imagine that all these doors magically open for you. You're Bill Clinton, a guy who, you know, was just Bubba. They called him Bubba. Hey, Bubba, you know, hey, next thing, oh, I'm a governor of Arkansas. Can you believe it? Yeah, I can believe it, because you're a Rhodes Scholar and they've installed. You didn't become the governor of Arkansas and then the president of the United States because you're so good at your job. You got those promotions because you're part of the club and they have installed you there, and they know that you're not going to wake up one day and say, you know, I've made a huge mistake and I need to what about it. They know.
Well, yeah, it's sort of the way the school, when you mentioned the school system before, it's like the way the school system's sort of set up is it pushes all these people through, and through universities, through your sort of lower end jobs that you get coming out of universities, you can start crafting and discovering the people that are smart but yet easily manipulated. And they're the ones that end up working in these sort of companies. But then it's weird because it's almost as if the system's set up in a way where the likes of us guys who think a little bit deeper into life and look at things a little bit longer were sort of like pushed out of the system. Sort of, it seems sort of like automatically, and it's completely a natural sort of lift out for us to, okay, you don't actually belong here because you're not going to be able to sit in that chair and lie or avoid the truth or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. And they certainly don't want curious people in those jobs either, too. You know what I mean? If you've got a job and you're doing something, you're I don't know, biotech company, and you're making something, you don't want some guy who's going, hey, what are you doing with that? Why are you making it do it that way? That's called gain of function. You shouldn't be doing that. That's what you use. You want to make it more deadly. And they go, shut up, Bob. You know, we're gonna get Bob out of here. He's about to blow the whistle. So yeah, you see incompetence rewarded, and you go, that guy got promoted. That guy's an idiot. That guy knows nothing. Sometimes they want the idiot promoted, not because he's good, but because he's not a threat too. So there's some of that coming up, and they want you to be, yeah, like you said, they identify you early on as somebody that would be a good fit for this or not such a good fit. And part of this also, and one of the tentacles I get into in the book, is the education tentacle. And that really is a huge part of this too, because in America, we sort of like think there's always been schools. Like there were always, you always went to school. And that has been the case for like 120 years or so. But before that, there were no schools in the United States. There was no, and you certainly didn't need, I mean, there might have been schools, but it wasn't mandatory that you went to, it wasn't compulsory. And then you go, oh, well then, so I guess then the government at some point created the schools, and you're like, that's what you would think, right? You would assume that. And they go, no, no, no. The Rockefellers created the schools. And you go, what? Why? And they say, well, because the Rockefellers got together with the Carnegie family, and the Carnegies were in the steel industry and railroads and things like that. And the Rockefellers were in the oil industry, and they all owned a little bit of each other's stuff too. And basically what they wanted to do was they run factories. And in the factories, the bell goes off at the end of the day, or the bell goes off when it's lunch break or something, whatever. Or you work for a textile company that makes shirts, and there's 10 women in 10 desks in a row there, and 10 more there, and 10 more there, and everybody's in rows, and they're all at their sewing machines making everything. And what they realized was that that's hard to convince people to do those jobs and sit there and take that on. But it's easier to get them to have those jobs if they've only been taught that that's what it is. So they created the school system. And in the school system, they made the desks in the straight rows. They made the bell go off when it's time for lunch or when it's time for recess or when the class is over. They mimicked the factories in the schools so that they could put an entire future generations of kids through the schools and then right into their factories. So there would be no gap. And they would only teach the kids a certain amount of information, just enough so that they're smart enough to work the machines, as George Carlin says, right? But not smart enough to figure out how the system actually works. And that's the education system inside America. Now, the Rockefellers did that with just the traditional compulsory education system for kids, but then they also did that for the medical schools. There were a bunch of medical schools in like the early 1900s that were doing all kinds of different things. And they hired a guy to go around and visit all these medical schools and create this report called the Flexner Report. And then they used that report to take a look and see what the state of was with all these schools. And since the Rockefellers were into oil, one of the byproducts of oil, one of the things, they have petroleum, right? And they were using it for a variety of different things. But one of the uses for it was that you could make chemicals with it, and you could make chemical medicine. You could make allopathic medicine instead of naturopathic medicine. Instead of herbs and bark and things like that, you could make all kinds of interesting things. So in order to really kind of get that industry going, they took control of the entire medical school industry, said, if we're redoing it, we're going to take only 25 universities. They're going to be Rockefeller approved. Everybody else that's outside of that, you're not going to be approved. We're not going to give you credentials. We're going to say, we're not only that, we're going to spend a bunch of money on an ad campaign to make sure that everybody in the world thinks that natural medicines are like kooky, crazy stuff, snake oil and, people out in the woods making stuff, that's dangerous and crazy form of medicine. And we, the Rockefellers, are making the real stuff out of all these chemicals. So they've taken control of the education system on top of this. So when we talk about politicians that come out of an education system and think a certain way, this is it. They've got a lot of practice doing this. This octopus, this Rockefeller octopus that John Francis Hyland, the mayor of New York City, talked about in 1922, with its sprawling tentacles into everything, was involved in the medical industry. They created that situation. And as we look at things now, all of the doctors that you see on TV are all Rockefeller certified. That's the reason why. And there's a whole like psychological manipulation behind all of that. So the reason why you see the doctors wearing the white lab coats, because it's a sign of authority. That wasn't devised by doctors. They weren't getting blood all over their clothes or anything like that and needed these jackets. That was devised by Edward Bernays. That was devised, created and conceptualized from the public relations division that said, how do we make these people look like they're superhuman? Well, we have to dress them in a different costume. Like, oh, you mean like a military costume or a policeman's costume? Like, kind of. Yeah, we have to give them a sense of authority. Put them in the white lab coat. That's why you see these interviews with Peter Hotez, the little elf, the little doctor that goes on and argues with people and fights about COVID and everything. And he does these interviews from his home office, and on his computer, like we're doing in front of Zoom, on Zoom and everything. And he's at his home office with all his diplomas and everything on the wall and everything by himself, presumably. I don't know. Maybe his wife is there. He's wearing his lab coat. He's always wearing his lab coat. And the reason is because he needs that perceived authority so that you'll listen to what he's saying. Because if you don't see him with the lab coat, he's just some jackass talking about medicine, right? But if he's got the coat on, now he's official. So they've thought of everything, right? They've thought of everything.
Shit. That's mind blowing.
Yeah. So it's a wonder we know anything at this point. You know what I mean? Like,
well,
so
that's what
many
I'm
people
thinking, right? Like, how did we slip through the gap? What's the secret ingredient there?
Well, I'll tell you how. And maybe we'll wrap up with this. But I was in Mexico a couple of weeks ago with for Anarchapulco, which is the largest anarchist conference in the world, in Acapulco, Mexico. And the guy that started the conference 10 years ago is Jeff Berwick, who I wrote a book with. So I have a pretty good relationship. And this year I was the host and MC of the event, which was a lot of fun for me to go down and be on stage. And I got to interview David Icke while I was on stage in Mexico. He's behind me on the big screen. He's in the Isle of Wight, right? We're doing it remotely from Zoom. But I did it in front of a live audience with 600 people there. And we had the camera that was turning, like a 360 camera that was kind of showing David everything. And I did an interview with him from the stage, asking all these questions. And one of the questions that we got, and it was an answer that continued on throughout the week. We talked about it a little bit with David, and then I finished up the conversation with Jeff Berwick a couple days later talking about this. And this was, how come some of us are allowed to figure it out? How come some of us are allowed to have this realization and nothing happens? And one of the things and Jeff put it to me in a really smart way. He said, they expect a certain amount of cows to deviate from the herd every now and then. They've made a calculation. Some cows are going to get lost. One cow is going to get curious, go over the hill, turn back around, not be able to find the rest of it. They're going to lose a couple of them. And they've put that in their calculation. They're not going to get everybody. And they're fine with that because they expect that. Like the way if you own a store, you expect a certain amount of goods to get stolen or lost or damaged or
Wastage.
whatever. You don't love it, but you've made the calculation for it. You know it's a reality and you know it's going to happen. As long as that's going on, it's no problem. The problem is when somebody comes and tries to induce the cows to come with them and leave and go somewhere else for the other that's when you get yourself into trouble. Those are the people that get killed. Those are the people that face real problems. Those are the Danny Castelleros of the world, the people that are trying to say, hey, you need to hear this. This story will change everything. Come with, listen to this and then come with me. We're leaving here. And you try to take a bunch of cows with you. That's a bad idea. That's what will get you killed. So we were talking about how you've got a certain amount of cow slippage that you're allowed, right? That are going to walk out the door, and you're fine with that, and they'll leave you alone. But boy, the minute you start pulling people away from the herd, they take a much different approach to that, and they see that as a threat, which it is, and they see you as a problem that needs to be dealt with. So the trick, I suppose, is to be one of those people that is prying the cows away, but for them to not catch you. but if they do, they aren't going to appreciate it. Maybe you'll get a warning, maybe you won't. But if you're stealing their cows, or I guess in this, maybe if we were going to make it a better analogy, sheep, if you're stealing some of their sheep, then you can only do that for so long before they view that as a threat to the system. And then you get the Matrix attack, as the two brothers
free
talk
trip
about,
on an
right?
airplane, free holiday.
Exactly. You get all
So
of those.
what makes us think, as a sort of alternative space, what makes us think it's a good idea to all of us record ourselves and put it on the internet every day?
Well, I mean, I think that it's not the best idea. But also like I'm dragging one cow at a time out. I'm not a huge threat. I think that when you become a bigger threat, as you become David Icke as an example, as somebody that has been very outspoken about this, they're content to just have a large segment of the population think that he's a crazy person. That's good enough for them, for him, for now. There's also something that happens that if you get to be too big, then they run the risk of, if they make you go away, then they draw even additional attention to you. Like Bill Cooper, somebody like Bill Cooper. Bill Cooper was a guy that had a radio show and he wrote books. He wrote a book called Behold a Pale Horse, and real good conspiracy research, real top-notch stuff. And he was the guy that said in June of 2001, there is going to be an attack on American soil in the near future, and they're going to pin it on a guy named Osama bin Laden, and it's not going to be him, and don't you believe it. Bill Cooper was dead by the end of the year. So it depends on your level of effectiveness. If you come out and say something like that 3 months before 9/11, ooh, they got to get you, right? But the problem with them getting you is that by doing so, now everyone goes, what was he talking about that got him killed? Well, he was talking about how 9/11 was going to happen. They were going to pin it on Osama bin Laden 3 months in advance. Well, how did he know that if it was 19 Arab hijackers with box cutters? And the answer is because it wasn't. And you go, oh. So they have to make that calculation where it's like, let this guy just continue to talk his stuff, and hopefully he's not going to pull too many of these sheep or cows away with him. And then there's other times where they say, nope, he's crossed the line, he's got to go. When they do that, then they draw more attention to that situation than there was before. So that's not necessary. It's definitely bad for somebody like Bill Cooper because you're dead. But your legacy, his legacy, is way bigger than it would have been had he stayed alive, So somebody like David Icke, I think they've made a calculation that killing him would make him a martyr. It would make him right about a lot of stuff. It would do, and
well, it's like when
already
Michael Jackson died,
better.
they did nothing but play his music for about 7 months after he died. So it would be a similar thing, yeah, with David Icke, for example. A lot more people would get access to it then. I guess, yeah, they're just weighing up the risk of threat, and if the risk of killing him the risk of keeping him alive outweighs the risk of killing him, then yeah, see you later.
Have you noticed since the pandemic a lot more people are waking up to what's going on?
Yeah, because for the same reason why a lot of people after JFK was assassinated woke up, and after 9/11 people woke up, and after COVID people are waking up, because when you get these big major international transformational events that everybody knows about in the world, even if they've never been to America, they see these things, people start asking questions. It's going to wake up a certain percentage of the population. You're going to go, that just doesn't make any sense. That story doesn't make any sense of the guy that shot JFK. That's fake, Um, and then 9/11, same thing, COVID. Yeah, I have noticed more people waking up to it because because whenever there's an operation this massive, they're going to make a tremendous amount of mistakes. And I think a lot of people have seen these mistakes. They've watched this overreach by groups like, like hospitals and places where they said, yo, you can't go in and see your dying relatives. And they went, what? This doesn't make any sense. They saw things that defied logic. They would see the hardware store down the street, the little one that was closed because COVID was there and you're all going to die. And then they would go 5 minutes the other direction and find the big giant Home Depot and it'd be wide open. They'd say, well, this is an essential store. You go, well, how come the small guy's store is an essential? And they say, oh, well, COVID gets really compacted in those small stores. It needs big. And you go, what the fuck are you talking about? Doesn't make any sense. And they're like, well, you have to go this direction down the grocery store aisle, and then the other aisle, they're going to go this direction, we need you to stand on these dots that are 6 feet apart from everyone. You go, okay, you want me to stand on the dots that's 6 feet apart of the person in front of me so that I can get on the airplane and sit 4 inches away from that same person to my left and right? Like, what do you want me to, like, what is happening here? So for some people, having those really obvious things, it puts you in one camp or the other. Either you immediately say, none of this makes sense, this all feels fake to me, or you walk one direction down that aisle and the other direction down and you stand on the dot, you never ask questions. So they're going to lose people. They're going when they make crazy decisions like this, they're going to lose a segment of the population. There's nothing that they can do about it. They'll try to censor it. They'll try to make it so that the media doesn't wake those people up. Or, they'll try to make sure that they do whatever they can to keep that percentage of people waking up as small as possible. But they make a lot of mistakes. That's another common denominator of these people. They think that they are gods. They act like they are gods. They think that they know everything and that they can make everything happen. And then they get out into the public. They have a 10-step plan for how they're going to enact this global tyranny. And they get to step 2 and they can't even finish step 2. They can't even get everybody vaccinated. They're like, oh, we'll just scare everybody. And then we'll introduce the vaccine and then we'll vaccinate the whole population. It's like, well, what if people don't want to get vaccinated? And they're like, oh, we never thought about that. Well, think about it. Now what are you going to do? Oh, we can give them a donut every day for a year. You go, that's your plan? That's the backup plan? Yeah, I thought you had a 10-step plan for tyranny. You're talking about giving out donuts for people's health so that they'll get injections that they don't need. So that's good news, actually, for all of us. It's really good news because what you find is that, oh, wait a second, these people are stupid. I almost forgot. I thought for a second there that they actually knew what they were doing, but in actuality, this is not a great group of people. This is not, now, the people at the top of the pyramid, very thoughtful, very educated, very devious, very dangerous. The middle management, the lower management, the politicians, the local politicians, the sheriffs, not the best and not the brightest. And because of that, they make a lot of mistakes. So again, whenever you see something come up like a COVID where they say you have to do this, it is your duty and obligation to do the exact opposite thing. Make their job as difficult as you can make it for them. Say, walk in this door, but not that door. Then you go in the door they don't want you to go in. You just do everything that you can to make. I remember I was walking into a grocery store in Las Vegas, right in the middle of the pandemic, and there's a lady standing right outside of the store, in front of the big doors that open up, and she's got a box of masks, and she sees me walking up, and I don't have a mask on. She goes, "Sir, your mask." And I was walking directly towards her, so she was like, "Sir, your mask," and I just immediately just walked right around her and kept walking in. And I can hear her going, sir, sir. And she's starting to fall. And sir. And I was thinking, I'm going to make this chick earn her money today. Right. You follow me around the store. You try to make me put on that mask. I'm going to make you go home in tears today. I'm going to make you quit this job by the end of your shift because you're going to be so tired of dealing with people like me. But that is my duty and obligation, is to do that, so that people like that go, I'm not doing this ever again. I'm not going to do this. This is stupid. This is crazy. What am I doing? Yeah, I am trying to get some stranger. I'm trying to tell some stranger to put a mask on when he walks in. This is crazy. What am I thinking? That's what I want these people to do. I want them to go home and cry themselves to sleep because their plans aren't working because we're so difficult to deal with. And that is something that everybody can do. Everybody can do, and you can, and some people are better at it than others, to just be difficult, to make these people have to adjust to you, because what you find out is they don't have a backup plan a lot of times. Their backup plan is giving you donuts or giving you lap dances at strip clubs or lottery tickets or laps around Talladega Motor Speedway in exchange for getting a vaccine. And you have to say to someone, you go, hey man, listen, I know you weren't alive, neither was I during the Black Plague, but do you think they had a public relations and marketing campaign for the Black Plague? Or do you think it was just evident by the fact that there were dead people all over the place, right? I don't see any dead people all over the place. So you're having to manufacture this to make me feel like there are dead people all over the place. And if you're doing that and it's a lie, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And so that is sort of that's the good news, is that because these people aren't really the best and brightest, they're going to make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, things aren't going to get done the way they think they're going to. And it's going to be aggravating for them. So again, we talk about the octopus and we talk about these people that are in positions of power, and they're going to come and get us. Maybe, but also remember, they're really bad at a lot of their job. A lot of them aren't good at what they're doing. They're incompetent. They're in this position not because they're talented, but because they're psychopaths. They're handicapped in the sense that they have addictions or problems in their past that they don't want. They're being blackmailed and controlled. They're not doing the job because they love it. They're doing the job because they have to, and the results are not very good. So I always want to, I know people get kind of down, like, especially during the COVID things, like, oh, it was so rough and everything. Yeah. But they failed. They failed miserably with COVID. They thought that it was going to go a lot differently than it did. And part of that is because of us, because of people that were talking about it and people that were explaining this in a way that maybe others hadn't considered before, or they were encouraged. They walk into a grocery store like I always did without a mask, and somebody else would have a mask on and they would see me and then they'd go, oh yeah, you're right. They'd pull their mask down and you'd go, see, that's what I'm talking about.
Trigger
This is
their
what we all
logic.
need to do. Yeah. Yeah. So we have to sort of, we play a role in this. We do. We play, if you see the insanity and you're correct for seeing it because it's there, and you call it out, good for you. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be going along with these people. You're supposed to be making it difficult for them, and eventually they'll quit and give up.
Do you have any ideas or theories on what the octopus has in store for us next?
Well, yeah. Well, there is one thing that they desperately want to get going. And this gets back to like our ability to make things difficult for them. They want to install a central bank digital currency so badly because it would be like money that is programmable by them. It's be like if they could watch everything that you spend your money on and make calculations from that. They could make it so that you couldn't buy things, you couldn't buy guns, you couldn't buy a bullet, you couldn't buy, let's say you wanted to go sign up for, I don't know, a educational program or something, make it so that your money doesn't work. They could set your money to expire. You know how when Klaus Schwab says you'll own nothing and be happy? You'll own nothing in their fantasy because you can never save enough money because they set your money to expire after, 180 days or something. a portion of it. So you can't ever save up and buy a car, or save up and buy a house, or save up and buy this or that. The reason why you'll own nothing isn't because you're just such a hippie that you don't care about owning anything and you don't want those things. No, you'll own nothing because your money evaporates out of your bank account. You can never save it. You can never put it. Their money won't. Their money will be different. So the most definitely from a financial standpoint, they would like for everybody to be into a digital controllable currency. That is not Bitcoin. That is not crypto. That's central bank digital currency. It's a different thing. They also want to kind of get all those terms confused so that people go Bitcoin, CBDC, whatever. It's the same thing. No. It's not the same thing. It's most definitely not, but they want you to think that it is. So my prediction, if I had to put a prediction, is that it would be something financial related. And the best way to do that is to have crashes in the economies of countries, maybe even a global crash, and then offer them the solution, which would be central bank digital currency. It wouldn't be a solution for you. It'd be the worst solution for you. But I could envision them making everything so bad and the economy going into such a dire situation. Here in America, they legalized a process known as bank bail-ins. We've had these things called a bailout, which was when the government comes and bails out the banks that were, mismanaging themselves and became insolvent. The government will come to them and bail them out. Now they made it legal to bail themselves in the banks, which means instead of going outside and grabbing government money to bring into the bank, they just take all your money, which sounds crazy. Like, what? My money in my bank account, my bank can take? The answer is yes. It has always been yes. You've been an unsecured creditor of your bank account. You just didn't know it. You're in third position behind the bank, the bondholders, and then you. So you're in no position. You're in a bad spot. That's how it's always been when you open your bank account. But if for some reason, you just to cover themselves, they went ahead and then legalized that process anyway. Even though it is illegal. I mean, you signed the terms, you signed it when you opened up your bank account saying all this stuff, but people would probably go, I don't remember signing any of that, or whatever. Just to make sure. They went ahead and legalized that process too. So envision this scenario. Financial catastrophe. Everything goes bad. The banks steal all of your money out of your bank account for them, for the bail-in, which is legal, because it is their money. And then on top of that, they legalized it. So it's awful and devious and terrible, but legal. You go, what am I going to do? They stole all, I've got my bank statements. I had $10,000 in there yesterday. I've got zero. Like, I'm totally locked out. Government comes in and says, this is terrible. It's legal. Fine. It's been a really crazy time. Mistakes were made. But we have a solution for you. You had $10,000 in there. We'll go back. We'll pull your records. Yeah, we see you did have $10,000. This is what we're going to do. We're going to give you $10,000 of this brand new Fed coin, U.S. central bank digital currency. Or maybe it's from the bank that it's Bank of America coin, right? Maybe it's that. We're going to give you that instead. Now you have $10,000 of $10,000 of this new crypto coin, this new CBDC. See, we fixed the problem. Now, all of a sudden, now you're in. And they say, oh, by the way, you're only getting paid in that from now on. Oh, and by the way, yeah, that money, it's 10,000 in there, but you can only use it for certain places. Maybe you can only use it at the places that are tied to the World Economic Forum, right? In the 1900s, when the Rockefellers were running mines and gold mines and things like that, all these mining camps, they would build a store. They might have 10,000 guys out there working. Then they'd build a store, and they called it the company store. Well, the whoever owned the mine owned the store, and they'd fill it with things, and they would pay you in these credits that could only be used at the company store, which was their store. So I could see the same scenario happening where they give you credits to shop at the company store, but the company store is just all of the partners of the World Economic Forum, Amazon, Walmart, so you go, oh, well, I can use it at a bunch of places, but you could only use it at those places. Next thing you know, that little small lumber shop that we talked about that was closed during COVID, if it made it through COVID, it's dead after that. It'll never make it from that because nobody can spend their money there. They can't legally spend their money there. And that hardware company can't put it in their bank. They can't put it'll be set up in a way that they're not allowed to take it because it's programmable. So again, it doesn't have to be that everybody makes a decision that central bank digital currencies are the right currencies to have, because nobody would make that decision. They're the wrong currencies to have. The way they'll do it is they'll make it so that it's your only option. And the way they'll make that option is by problem, reaction, solution. Problem, banking collapse, reaction. Oh my God, the bank stole all my money. Solution, here's the central bank digital currency. You're welcome.
Yeah, and even on the flip side, if you look at what they're doing with companies and their ESG scores now, it will be a point of, well, all of these companies have really low ESG scores, so you can't trade with this currency until
Right.
you come back with a better score, or
For sure.
so that will
For
be like
sure,
the
yeah.
transitional process from the point of view of the businesses.
And
Like
it
so many.
keeps a great incentive for the businesses to comply with the DEI stuff to make sure that their score is high enough. Because if their score is too low, nobody will be able to shop with them. They're going to be in a real problem. So that's how you manage behavior, not by, you can trick people into doing it that way. And that's,
So I know quite a few people are like, obviously everyone's against the CBDC, but I know a few people who are buying Bitcoin in preparation for a CBDC. Do you envision a world where there's a parallel economy that runs with Bitcoin?
yes, if I 100%, I envision a parallel economy. The question is, when will these corporations, when will these governments, sovereign wealth funds, when will they finally make the calculation that they want to buy Bitcoin? Here in America, the ETFs just started 2 months ago, and a ton of money is flowing into that. That's part of this. That's the first step. That's a good step. It's not ever great when BlackRock is buying it, but they're buying it because their customers are demanding it, and their customers are going to start demanding it more and more. I think Bitcoin offers one of the better solutions for people to get away from this. There's still going to be a lot of work to be done because not everybody understands it, and in a parallel economy, you're never going to be doing a ton of business, because if your parallel economy is somehow illegal, then you'll always be spending a portion of your time trying to make sure that you don't get caught. But I think the cat is out of the bag already, man, because like in El Salvador, Bukele's made it the national currency. And that's coming for more countries. I mean, it starts in El Salvador, and it's going to go from there. So I think that people that understand Bitcoin know that it is not a central bank digital currency. I think they understand the dangers of programmable money. The thing that they like about Bitcoin is that there is no CEO, there is no ability to change the programming of it. You've got 21 million coins. That's all you got. That's all you're going to get. And the deflationary halving and creation of the coins is brilliant. And it goes completely against everything that the government needs. They need endless money to fight especially here in the States. Our big military machine is financed by money printing, endless money printing. And if you went to a Bitcoin standard where nobody was able to print the money, by definition, you would be crippling a lot of these other programs, including the military. So if you're somebody that's anti-war, might not be a bad idea to be pro Bitcoin, because Bitcoin removes that fuel from the war industry because they can't inflate it and create it out of thin air. They could still buy it and ride the appreciation wave up and do things like that. But I think they like their fiat currency system really well, but that fiat currency system is a Ponzi scheme. And those don't last very long. In fact, we're at the end of the road for the dollar. And we're watching things happen that when Berwick and I wrote Controlled Demolition of the American Empire, we were talking about this that if you lived in the Roman era, which went on for a long, long time, but if you got to the tail end of the Roman era, and then it ended, somebody from outside of that would say to this Roman person, of course it ended. What made you think that it wouldn't? What did you see in your society that made you think that the empire was strong, that your currency was strong? They were doing a thing called coin clipping. They're cutting like little triangle slices off the edges of all the coins and piling that up and melt it. They were debasing their currency back then.
And that was to fund war as well, right?
What's that?
That was to fund war as well.
Of course. Yeah, of course. And so governments are constrained by their ability to have money. And so so they print and print and print, and then it all goes wrong. So what Berwick and I were saying about the American empire is, it's like right now, it sounds crazy to say, oh, the American empire will go away because not America, but the empire, there's the difference. And it sounds like preposterous and kind of crazy to say that when we wrote the book 4 years ago. But what we argued was, after it happens, you're going to look back on it and go, how could it not have collapsed? Like $35 trillion of debt. The United States is printing $1 trillion of new debt every 90 days. I can't believe our currency collapsed. Really? You can't believe? I can't believe it didn't collapse 10 years ago, frankly. Like you should be buying anything that you can get your hands on that is of limited supply. So that's why, the Bitcoin people are going, I've got an infinitely expanding money supply with fiat. I've got it now. I've got access to it now. I've got a cap supply with Bitcoin that isn't going to be inflated away. It's only going to become more valuable as more people figure it out. I can trade some of my soon to be worthless paper currencies, say Federal Reserve notes. I can trade them in for something else, gold, silver, land, Bitcoin, whatever. Like, get something that's as stable as you can. It's going to be so obvious when everything collapses. Everyone, the future generations, like our grandchildren, will be like, yeah, of course. I mean, it seemed like it was going to come down for a while now. Were you guys surprised by it? A lot of people say, yeah, I didn't know it was coming. Well, it's coming. It's coming because it's just math. It's just math. You just look at it and you go, you can't really sustain this. And in fact, it's been math for a while, but the bankers changed the math and changed the laws and changed some of that so that it could go on and on and on a little bit longer. I expect more of that, but at some point, it ends. And when you're the world's reserve currency, like the dollar is, maybe it ends last. Maybe you're the last one to go away, and maybe some of these other ones do. But boy, if you can see what we see, and you understand the government the way we understand how they think, that governments are organized crime, then you have to go, oh, I need to make this move now. I can't wait around for the TV to tell me, oh, it's time to buy something else. It's time to buy gold. Oh yeah, it's time. At that time, it's too late. you have to recognize what you see now. You have to go, okay, the world feels very crazy. The financial system is a house of cards. What can I get that isn't going to go down in value? I don't even care if it goes up in value. Just what am I going to get that's not going to go down in value, right? And you find like gold and you find silver and you go, this is a pretty good bet. Well, silver's been manipulated so that the price is unusually low. And it's been done by the US banks. They've been busted doing it by artificially suppressing the price of silver. They had a trial. They were found guilty of felonies. So again, it's like all the major banks and all the major pharmaceutical companies in America are all convicted felons. All of them. They've been convicted of felonies in courts of law. The only difference is they don't take the CEO and put him in prison. They just pay a fine, but they've all paid the fines. It's actually just kind of a cost of doing business now. So if you know that you are living in a world where all these big major organizations and operations are run by actual, literal, convicted felons, then you've got to then you can't sit around waiting for them to tell you what to do. You've got to go figure it out on yourself. You got to go say, I'm getting out of this system. The system looks like it's going to crash. I'm getting out of it. And I know that not everybody's interested in Bitcoin and not everybody's interested in gold or silver. Whatever it is that you think will retain value, find it and get your hands on some of it. Because when things go bad, I mean, maybe it's just like you have you bought land and you've got a garden there and you could feed yourself. That's going to be a huge victory for a lot of people. That's going to be like, oh my God, that kept me alive, So I think it's going to be an interesting time to see over the next, the tail end of this decade, by the time we get to 2030, which of course is a big year for these people. The 2030, they love that, right? So how things play out over the next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of chaos and a lot of change, but with that is also going to come a lot of opportunity. And the people that see these things, they understand the path that we're going down. They'll see the opportunities, and I think for those people, things will get a lot better. For people that don't see it, that are late to the party, that aren't paying attention, or that want to call you a conspiracy theorist and tell you that you're all wrong for all this stuff, good luck to you, man. Those people are going to be in big trouble when they realize that they've been had.
Yeah, because they're living in this false sense of security right now. They think everything is going.
And it's tempting. It's tempting to want to do that, because it's like, I don't see all this stuff.
Yeah, ignorance is
everything's
bliss.
Good. But I don't like that.
Well, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
That's the truth.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for this, Charlie. It's been a good.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming on. It's been amazing. I'll leave in the description below. I'll put your books. You've got 2 books, right? Or have you got more than 2 books?
There's 3 books out. The Octopus of Global Control, The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire, which I wrote with Jeff Berwick. And then there's a 3rd one called Hypocrisy, Surviving in a World of Cultural Double Standards. That's the 3rd one. That's the less political one. It's more like social commentary. It's just where I just make fun of stupid people and stupid decisions and politicians and all that. And then of course I have 400 footnotes in that book, because when I start making fun of people or talking about this or that and talking about how crazy things are, people just assume I'm making it up. So I have to say, no, I'm not making it up. This is where you can find it. This is the article, or this is the, so I always want to make sure that, cause I fully recognize the things that I'm talking about sound crazy to people. I get it. It's the first time. If this is the first time you're hearing this stuff, you probably think I need to be put in a padded cell, which is funny because the cover art for the 3rd book is actually Uncle Sam in a padded cell in a straitjacket. And that's kind of like where we are as a society, like just lock the government up, put them in the nut house, put them in Broadmoor for you guys, Okay, I'll make it UK specific. Put them in Broadmoor. Just don't give Jimmy Savile the key.
So yeah, if this is the first time someone's getting involved in this, and or you would say hypo crazy is the place to start.
Oh
With
yeah. That's a good one. That'll ease you in. That'll ease you into it. But if you're ready for some hardcore conspiracies with not conspiracy theory, but conspiracy analysis, which means we're not theorizing about conspiracies that might exist. We're analyzing actual ones that do exist. Then the Octopus book is the way to go, because that's going to really give you a broad overview of what's happening. And I think if people read the Octopus book, then they'll go, okay, I have a pretty good idea of who some of the good guys and some of the bad guys are. And if you know that, then you'll be in good shape. And I appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks for thinking
thanks for coming on. It's been great.
It's been great.
You've got a great way of explaining it. Obviously, you've got the comedy side of it, which is great to have.
Which you got to have.
Yeah,
you got to have it if you're talking about this dark stuff, or else people just be like,
blow the brains.
Like, oh man, you got to talk.
Yeah, I remember I listened to one of your podcasts. I think it's called "Where Have All the People Gone" or something.
That was the number one episode of Macroaggressions ever. That was
a dark episode, but the way you presented it, like, it kept it felt a little bit lighter than the topic you was talking about, which it was a great listen.
Thank you so much. That was an episode that I almost didn't do. That was about the COVID shots, the Deagle chart, and the World Health Organization international charts of where the shots had been distributed. I have a business partner on this show who does all the engineering on it. And I told him I was like conflicted because I'd written this whole thing out, and I said, it's so dark, man. I don't even know if I want to do it. And I said, what do you think? And he said, well, do this. He said, record it. Just record it. And then I'll listen to it. And then I'll tell you what I think. And I was like, okay. So he goes, and if you don't want to put it out, we won't put it out. So I recorded the whole thing and I sent it over to him, and I got a phone call from him like 2 hours later. And he said, you have to put this out. And I was like, really? He said, yes. He said, it's dark. You're right. It is really dark, but you have to put this out. I was like, okay. And I put that out, and I've never gotten that much feedback from a show ever. I started getting crazy interview requests from like all over the world, Japan and places. I was like, why does everyone want to talk to me about this all of a sudden? I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying this is what I think I might have found here. And that one really touched a nerve for people. So, and that was maybe 2 years ago, tail end of 2022. I don't know. Almost a year and a half.
You get people who are sort of new to it anyway. You've got two types of people, I feel like. You've got people that you need to ease into it, and then you've got people who you need to sort of slap in the face with it for them to be really shook and be like, oh shit, this has legs, what these people are talking about.
I described my podcast when I was in Mexico. I was at this bar with a bunch of people, and these ladies were like, how would you describe your podcast? Like, what would you do? I said, it's conspiracy lube. You put it on right before you jam it in. They're like, oh, okay. I was like, so it doesn't hurt as much. She was like, got it. So lube up your ears or whatever, and you can find Macroaggressions wherever podcasts are served. Please enjoy yourself. But you've been warned, I suppose.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, we wish you all the best. I think you're going to fly because you're just such a relaxing sort of figure to speak to about these sort of things, and you go deep into the topics, but I don't feel like on edge listening to them at all.
No, I because it's going to be okay. We're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But we got to be honest about what we're up against, and if we are, then we're going to be in a better position. But we're going to be fine. we're going to be better for it. Actually, after coming through all of this, I can envision a scenario in which the world is better. That's, I think,
that's how I look at everything that's sort of been thrown our way. It's just resilience building. So everything they do, if you crumble, then, well, if you don't crumble, you've only built a thicker layer of skin.
Yeah. They need you to crumble too. And if you don't do that, you don't have a backup plan. So, well, thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Charlie.
Great.
I'll talk to you guys again.
See you later.
Take care.
Goodbye.